everyone, Katrina here, and today we're going to go over transformations of trigonometric functions as well as graphing techniques. Be sure to subscribe for more videos just like these. Okay, let's dive in. So today we're going to look at all the key aspects of what we need in order to transform and graph trigonometric functions. So here I have our function written out with sine. However, this can easily be exchanged for cosine, as all these features are very similar. Sine and cos are simply just 1/4 shift away from each other. So previously, I've discussed different transformation methods for other functions, such as polynomials or rational functions. A lot of these core concepts are very similar for transformations of trigonometric functions. However, the only difference here is that we're going to be considering a few different names. So we might see the same type of stretch, but it might have a different name when we're in the scope of trigonometry. So be sure to watch out for that. So I'm going to go through what each of these letters mean over here in our transformation, and then after that I'm going to discuss how we can apply these to graph a trigonometric function as we go through a step-by-step example. So let's dive into the meanings of all of these things here. So first of all, what is the plus or minus? So whenever we see a plus or minus outside the bracket of the function, that refers to a vertical reflection. So a vertical reflection can also be thought of a reflection over the x-axis. So this is the same as any normal transformation. What about the a? So if we are thinking about a regular function, and when I say regular, I mean just not a trig function, what does that mean? So traditionally, that would mean we'd have a vertical stretch by factor of a. But what does this mean in terms of trigonometry? Well, in terms of trigonometry, this a over here represents the amplitude of the trig function. Because sine and cos functions, they have a restricted range. So they oscillate between a maximum value and a minimum value. And the amplitude indicates how much above or below the axis the function stretches. Okay, let's move on. So we have our amplitude, and then what about this k value? So traditionally, like I said, this k value over here for transformations would represent a horizontal stretch by factor of 1 over k. So that's if we think about a traditional function. However, in trigonometry, this k value gives us a lot of insight about what the period of our function will be, since sine and cos are both periodic functions. So in this case, we're going to represent period of the function as t, and the period of the function equals to 2 pi over k. So right now I'm doing this video in terms of radians, so if you need to learn about the conversion between degrees and radians, be sure to check out my previous videos on that. Just so you know, 2 pi equals to 360 degrees, and that is the full period of a basic sine or cos function without any transformations being applied. So that's why we use that in that transformation over there. Okay, so let's move on to the next one over here. So now we're going to enter inside of our bracket so that we can look at our translations. So we have our k, which stretches us horizontally, and now we need to figure out what about our translations. So here we're going to look at our d value. So traditionally, this d value is a translation d units to the right. So when we have x minus d, that means we're going towards the right. And in terms of trigonometry, it's very similar. But instead of calling simply a translation, we call this a phase shift. So that is the new terminology there. Okay, so lastly, we have our c value. So we can see that it is outside of the brackets of the function. And like we know, when it is outside, that typically refers to vertical transformations. So in this case, this is our vertical translation, and it's going to be c units up. So if it's plus, that means we're going up. In terms of trigonometry, you can still think of it as moving it up or down c units. However, we can also refer to the c value as our axis. So if c equals to 0, then the axis of our function remains the x-axis, because that's kind of the midpoint in our function. So with its amplitude, it will go a units up, go back to the axis, and then go a units down. So that c is kind of like our midpoint. It represents like the axis, and it has like that symmetry for our function. So imagine you're moving your whole function, for example, 2 units up. You can think of your x-axis now being moved 2 units up as your midpoint of the function, so that new c value can be referred to as the axis of your function. So that's just some new terminology, and this helps us out a lot for graphing. So this shows all the key aspects of the transformations here. So next we're going to go into all the key features or key points that we want to have written down before we go into graphing. So let's go ahead and do that. So we get a lot of them already from our function over here from our transformations, but I'm just going to point out a few extra ones. So let's just write out these key features. So first of all, when we're graphing, we want to know the amplitude. So we always write out our A. So this is first thing to write out. Second thing to write out is your period. So remember, we find our period is t, so this is our period of our function, and this equals to 2 pi over k. Okay, next we're going to write our c value, which we know is our axis or our vertical translation. And now that we have these information from our function, we want to then figure out what is the maximum and minimum value of our function, so we can write that down immediately when we start graphing. So first of all, the maximum of the function equals to our amplitude plus our axis, a plus c. And then our minimum equals to negative a plus c. So we take the negative of our amplitude, and then we're adding whatever our vertical translation is. So once you have these key features, you're usually pretty good to go to start graphing your function. So let's go through a step-by-step example how we can apply all this knowledge and graph a trigonometric function. So let's go ahead and start our graphing. So today we're going to consider an example. So our example is f of x equals to negative 4 sine. Then in our brackets we have 2x minus pi over 4, and then plus 1. So another key thing that I want to draw your attention to is that we always have to factor out our k value. X can only have a leading coefficient of 1 in front of it. If you don't factor out your k value, your phase shift over here is going to be misrepresented. So you always have to factor it out. So in this example, I'm giving you this 2 already factored out. So just be sure to watch for that when you're doing your math tests. Okay, so now let's go ahead and work on all our key features. So what do we have here? Well, the first thing I want to notice is that we've got this negative sign here. So this means that we're having a reflection over the x-axis. So this is our vertical reflection over x-axis. Okay, so it's just good to make note of that. And now let's go through the rest of our features. So we see that our a value equals to 4, and our k value equals to 2. So if k is 2, that means t, our period, is 2 pi over 2, which equals 2 pi. Okay, and then what else do we have here? We have that our axis c, oops, sorry, I just wrote plus c. This should be plus 1. Okay, so c equals to 1. And then what else? We can find our maximum. So maximum equals to a plus c, which is 4 plus 1, which is 5. And then our minimum equals to negative a plus c, which is negative 4 plus 1, which equals to negative 3. Okay, is that everything? Well, that's everything we've had so far, but why don't we include, what about our phase shift? So we always want to include our phase shift as well, and that equals to our d value. so in this case, our phase shift equals to pi over 4 units to the right. Okay, so now we have all our key pieces of information. So I'm going to show you how we can graph this. So I'm going to show you how we can graph all of this, every single transformation in one step, except for our phase shift. So overall, we're just going to use 2 steps, graph everything, and then do our phase shift secondly, because I find that one just takes a little bit more information, and it's tricky to put it immediately because you don't want to create a mistake. Okay, so I'm going to show you my step-by-step way how I like to graph this. So first of all, I like putting my period onto my plot, and I like including 5 main points. So I'm going to have my 0, and then somewhere at the end of my graph, I'm going to have my end of my period, in this case is pi. And then this is not going to be 100% to scale, but I'm just going to show you roughly. We're going to take half of that value, which is pi over 2. Half of pi over 2 is pi over 4. And then what about our 3/4? Our 3/4 will be 3 pi over 4. So always make sure you put your 5 key points, the beginning of your period, the end, and then each quarter. So the half, and then the first quarter and third quarter. The next thing I like to do is put our maximum and minimum value. So our maximum value here is going to be 5, and then our minimum value is going to be -3. And then I like to write what is our new axis. So we said our new axis is 1. So that means I just like kind of writing a dotted line at this new axis because this is my new reference point. Okay, so now we have all of this information over here. And since I'm looking ahead, I know that we're going to be moving pi over 4 to the right. So just why don't we have that on our graph as well, that we have some point out here in the future that is our 5 pi over 4. So just so you know, that equals to pi plus pi over 4, since eventually we will be moving pi over 4 units to the right. Okay, so before we dive into our graph, I like to draw a mini graph of what our sine function normally looks like to use as reference points. So typically the sine function looks like this for one cycle. In this situation, I have the reflected version. So if because I have a negative a value, so in blue here, that's what my sine function is going to look like. Or I can draw that once more for you like this. And that's the pattern we're going to be following, because for this question, we are graphing one cycle of the function. Okay, let's go ahead and start doing this. So from sine, we know that our first point is we're going to start at the axis. Okay, so again, we're doing everything here except for the phase shift. I can see that it reaches its minimum over here at its first quarter. So first quarter, pi over 4, it's reaching its minimum right over there. At the halfway point, we're back to the axis, so over here. At the 3/4 point, I'm at the maximum, so I'm over here. And then at my last quarter, or my end point, I'm back on the axis. Now that I have my 5 points, I can simply just connect my connect the dots to create a smooth, try doing that a little bit better. It's not going to be perfect here. I'm going to create our smooth sine plot. Always make sure to draw your arrows at the end. Okay, so this is everything except for our phase shift. So now let's incorporate this phase shift, pi over 4 to the right. So that means I'm going to take each of my points and move it pi over 4. So this point is going to go here, this point over here, this one over here, this one over here, and then our last one, and we already have our marker for 5 pi over 4. And then again, I'm going to connect the dots so that I have a smooth sine plot. And there you go. So I showed you how you can graph a full trigonometric function with all its transformations in just 2 steps. In the first step, you can do everything except for the phase shift. And then in the second step, you can use a phase shift. I find this is the best strategy to have the most accurate graph, and be sure to have at least 5 anchoring points on your plot so that it is as accurate and representative of the curve as possible. So if you enjoyed this video, please drop it a like and definitely subscribe for more fun and easy to follow math videos. I look forward to seeing you next time.